For some people, it can be pretty hard to come up with a good block design. Oh my god, this sucks. Some people, especially beginners, will keep attempting hundreds or even thousands of times to make something and will end up doing nothing. For that reason, I decided to make this video. This is the ultimate block design tutorial. In this video, I'll be telling you absolutely everything I know about making a good block design. I'm gonna tell you things such as what you should avoid doing on your block, tips to improve the blocks you already have, my block design building process, and much more. It is basically impossible for you to finish this video without receiving any further acknowledgements in Geometry Dash creation. With that said, let's get right into it. Okay, so in my opinion, there are three types of block design in Geometry Dash: the simple, the complex, and the advanced ones. A simple block is not objectively worse than an advanced one. In fact, it all is subjective and dependent on one's point of view, obviously. I, personally, in a part of which the background happens to be the main focus, will prefer to see simple blocks being used, since using complex ones could probably blur out the main focus of the scene. However, if it is just a regular glow style part with no focus on effects or backgrounds, I will prefer to stick to making more complex blocks, as making simple ones could make the part uninteresting and boring to look at in general. Now, with that said, let's start building some block designs. My building process basically consists in: first, I make the structure of the block, then I make the base, afterwards, the details, including the spikes and the 3D, and for the last, I do some small adjustments on it just to ensure that the block is overall looking in the exact way I want it to look like. I will start it by building the simple one. In my opinion, a simple block design must have at least these four things. Simple structure. As you can see here, I literally just made a square and I will see what I can do with this. Characteristic. With this word, I mean that you should strive to create something unique and remarkable. Something that reflects your own style. Something that sets you apart and makes you known for it. And this doesn't only apply to block designs, but to everything else you do on your level. Having a unique creation style really makes you a much more memorable creator. On my blocks, I always add a lot of lines and glow lasers. Those are things I came up with. I was the first person to start doing this. Therefore, these things set me apart from the other creators. However, remember that having a creation style doesn't mean that all your creations have to look the same. Always remember to make different things and come up with different concepts and ideas, but while still keeping your own marks to them. Now, I will be adding some of my usual details to this simple block. What I always like to do is, I add the base of the block, black outlines, really bright glow around it, and some really bright glow lines. After it, I will put a black glow with really low opacity on the bottom, and then some really bright glow on the top part of the block, just like that. I like to do it because it really gives a focus point to the brightness of the block, so there is less of a chance for you to mess up with the brightness and the contrast of it. After giving a characteristic to this block, the next step is to add some minimally visually pleasing things. You don't want to add a lot of things and overdo it. As you know, this block is supposed to be simple. I will literally just add a black connector with some black lines around it on the center of the block, and after it, I will just add a really simple 3D. And then, I will just make some really simple spikes real quick, just like that. Come on. This is not hard to do. You literally just have to spam some spikes and put glow on the top of it. Don't you dare complain about it on the comments. After finishing a block, the last part is to make some adjustments on it. I always like to make some small fixes on my blocks whenever I finish them. On this one, there isn't much to do, to be honest. I would basically just reduce the bright of the glow on the top of it and it's basically done. As you can see, this block is really simple. Anyone can do it. And if you want to make a part in which the block design isn't the main focus, it will probably work. Now, it is time to make the complex block design. And as you can see, the structuring already looks quite different from the simple one, and that's because for me, the complex blocks, differently from the simple ones, are supposed to work along with the main focus of the part. Like, the person who's playing the level is supposed to say, "Whoa, that's a pretty cool block design, and there's a pretty cool background. So, that's a pretty cool part." The first thing we want to add to this block is characteristic. So, as you already know, I will just add things from my style into it, such as glow and lines in general, just like that. After adding characteristic, since the block's supposed to be a complex one, I'm supposed to add complex details to it. So yeah, like when I was building the simple block, I'll have to use more than 10% of my brain capacity for this one. What I want here is to add details that look the most coherent to my structure, but without making them stand out too much. I quite literally just want this block to look pretty good. So yeah, after adding the glow and lines, I added some very subtle square shaped details onto the base of the block. Afterwards, I made a really simple 3D, and then I proceeded to do the spikes. For the complex block spikes, I want to make something more complex. So I decided to make the spikes from Electromain Adventures here. Then just spam them repeatedly, just like that. Then I just put some simple spikes into it and spammed them as well. For the last, I put some glow on the top of it all, and it was already done. I usually like to add some fading lines on the top part of my spike, but somehow I forgot to do it to this one. Anyways, now since I want this block to have a little more of variation than the simple one, instead of just copying and pasting the spikes and reducing their scaling, I made some new ones. And yeah, the spikes are basically done. Now, for the last, I'll just make some edges on it, such as reducing the bright from the glow on some spots of the block, and the complex one is basically done. It is time to make the advanced block design. This block design is just supposed to be used if you want to unleash 100% of your power in a collab part or something like that. Otherwise, it's not really worth it to make it. It really is a lot of work for a block design that will be just seen for 0.4 seconds, as UVX says on my comment section. I like to see the advanced block design as a boosted version from the complex one. They are the same thing, except that the advanced one is much more over-decorated and has much more complex and overthought details put into it. Now, I'll be honest with you, making a good block design is a skill that you develop as you keep trying and not ironically failing. The more you try and fail, the more your brain will get used to it, and the more it will start to tell you when a detail that you add into it looks actually good and when it looks bad. By trying and fail, you will refine your skills, and over the time, you will be able to come up with literally anything you want. Creating a good thing on this game only depends on how much you can fail, but recover from the ground and try again. As you can see here, I'm just making a lot of random details into this block and seeing what fits into it or not. I already have this kind of skill to tell if something I add looks bad and something I add looks good. I'm just out here adding a lot of lines, colors and glow and just refining it until basically it gets to the result I want. And the result is basically this one. This basically looks like the complex block, but with better structuring, better details, more variation, and especially more work put into it. Now, even though unfortunately I can't make you finish this video being a super ultra blaster creator, I can give you some tips that will really make you to be way ahead from everyone else. Inspiration is OP. Straight up copying other people's levels, seeing what they do on their block designs and just reproducing it in your own style is actually overpowered, but please just do it to creators that are actually good. Knowing the editor, knowing every single aspect from the Geometry Dash editor is really gonna help you and give you much more freedom to make better designs, so I totally recommend you to do that. Don't take all the feedback you receive. As I've said in my previous video, this is just a game. You aren't making a professional artwork to a client or something like that. You are just making a block design and having fun with it. So just take feedback if you actually agree with it. If you think your creation is just fine as it is, then don't change it. I really hope I helped you by telling you how I make my blocks. I hope this gave you some inspiration and some will to create. Everything I wanna see is you being able to make masterpiece after masterpiece. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.